Hello, my name is Paula, and this is my persuasive presentation. So, for many years, the United States has had a problem with fighting racism. From the beginning, when black people were brought in as slaves, to today, where innocent lives are being taken. Now, slavery started in the 17th century when black people were brought from Africa to the United States to be treated as slaves. Now, today we ask ourselves, when will this stop? How much more lives is it going to cost? How many more years of fighting? Personally, I believe that there is a lot of work to be done, and as a community, the people, the world, we can all work together to reach the goal of equality. So, what is racism? Racism is an action that is motivated by the belief that human beings have certain qualities that determine their abilities. So the color of their skin, the color of their skin basically defines what they are capable of doing in a workplace, in school, in positions in society, really. So people like this believe that their race as well is superior to another and is in fact more dominant. Now, how is this a problem? Racism causes individual and community damage. It can harm someone. It can affect someone emotionally, physically. It can affect their lifestyle, where they live, where they live, as well as how much they make. So if they're in a certain, if they have a work, if they're working and they're a black person, for example, they will not. They will first of all not get paid as much as, let's say, a white male does, and this can make them have a different lifestyle than a white person, only because of where they work, or how much they earn. This can also affect people's trust. Being in a community with people that are not the same skin color as you and make you feel small. This can definitely affect the way you trust your neighbors, the way you trust your community and your environment. So it's important to make a safe space for everyone. This can also affect the way someone respects you. Feeling small, feeling unworthy, feeling like you don't fit in, as well as a sense of belonging. I think racism has affected people with feeling like they belong in a certain community. Black people feel like they're less than. Muslims also feel like they are always stereotyped. So this can affect multiple races. And yes, along with feeling like they don't belong somewhere, it has created inequality between races. It's created the fact that we are not equal, and over the years there have been several protests, several fights trying to justify racism. So, what is being done about this social problem? First of all, there have been some affirmative actions that have been taking place, such as the Civil Rights Act, which was passed in 1964, and this was to ban discrimination. It was to ban discrimination. However, I did realize that around 1969 or 68, Muhammad Ali, who is a boxing champion, is a black man, was denied access into a restaurant because of the fact that he was black. So technically, even though this was passed, there was still some forms of racism that were that kept going. Along with this, also black people gained the right to vote. So as you can see, along the years from slavery in the 1600s, there has tried to be some form of action to make sure that we're all equal. But it's been 300 years plus, and I think more needs to be done. And yeah, with that being said, the United Nations, um, they have a specific. The United Nations works globally to help social problems, really and truly, and with their human rights, with their human rights organizations that they have. With this, you, I came to find that in certain countries, uh, racism is punishable in certain countries. Actually, in Europe, you can be punished for being racist. In Uruguay, it says that there are policies to ensure equality in education. At least 8% of black people have to be in this space. In Spain, the Congress of Deputies recognizes and supports black communities. Um, in some countries, racial profiling is prohibited. There are guidelines for the police to ensure that they are that everyone is treated equally. Some organizations that are also working towards fighting racism are the UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commissioner of Human Rights, the UN Department of Global Communications, UNESCO, United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization. As you can see, um, there are different places in which racism can affect a person in education, in communication, in their culture, and so these organizations work to help tackle the little that they can. So yes, there's the African Union. There are community made organizations like the Black Lives Matter movement, which started when gun violence was, or not gun violence, police brutality was affecting innocent black lives. A movement was created by 2, 3 women who wanted to find justice in police brutality in America. There's the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. This started back when segregation was very high. There's the Black Youth Project, American Civil Liberties Union, Kids in Need of Defense Advancement Project, which helps black people advance in their career, in their lifestyle. There's Color of Change. And what is their mission? Their missions are mainly to fight against most of them is to fight against violence, because as I said, there's police brutality, which is now a very big issue in the United States, harming black people. Security and education, economic, social, and political rights. They also fight as a whole to give freedom for all. Some of these organizations also have immigration protection for children, and also some that give opportunities to people that cannot get an opportunity because they've been discriminated against. The goal for this is to end racism, end brutality, end injustice, end inequality, and inaction. How do these organizations have funding, you may ask? This is through donations, fundraising, activities, and other organizations that may want to contribute. From 2011 to 2019, altogether there was $3.3 billion given to fund racial equality, and in 2020 so far there has been 4.2 billion. So it's good that things are progressing. We'll see what it does in the future. Now, the outcome of this. So from these organizations, around 40% of African American people have gone into the middle class now. This is good. 41% are homeowners themselves. There's more employment, more education. The poverty rate has lowered in different races. The wage gaps have changed, but still need work. And the representation of acknowledging that racism is in fact something has changed. The challenges that these organizations may face are finances. Violence is one which is really huge, because once people don't receive a sense of equality, they turn into now these rioting, and they demand justice. And so some people will look into violence, which is what we're trying to not have. Another thing is ignorance. Having people not understand that it's a serious issue. Here it says, don't ignore racism because it makes you feel, because it makes you uncomfortable. That is a form of ignorance. It's not acknowledging that it's a problem, that it's affecting people, and change needs to happen. So what can the audience do? The audience may be aware, first of all, that racism is in fact a problem today. You can pay attention to what is going on, what we are trying to change, what we as Black people are trying to say, acknowledge that this is something that is harming us emotionally, physically. It would be good to learn, as a Black person myself, I want to learn more about different cultures, different races, and see how they are dealing with things themselves, and how to help. Yeah. Also donating to certain organizations to help fight racism, volunteering as well. There are so many ways in which you can volunteer and help fight this social problem. And lastly, support, share, and yes, these are my resources, my references, and yeah, thank you.